Okay. I was going to stop the music and I'm like, let me let it finish. Sounds pretty good. Okay. Welcome everyone to the live stream for today. We'll get started in just about 10 minutes with the lesson. Before that, I just wanted to say hello. And, or if you're Korean, 안녕하세요. If you are from any other language speaking background, well, hello. And we're going to be learning about a intermediate level topic today. But first, I just wanted to give you some announcements. So first of all, again, welcome everyone. There are some people who are new to this live stream. This might be your first time watching live. I always start these right at 2 o'clock. So if you're here now, you are early. So that's why it's, nothing's going on right now. There's no lesson. I just have the first few minutes before we start the lesson. I explain the prerequisites. I say hi to everyone. I give some announcements. And we don't really have any special announcements. I guess if you're celebrating Christmas this coming week, then Merry Christmas. This will not affect our live streaming schedule. I'm still going to do another live stream next Sunday as well. But then the next one after that will be our regular break. So 2 weeks from today, there will not be a live stream just on that Sunday. But yes, next Sunday there will be. And I believe the live stream we're going to have next Sunday is going to be the advanced topic that we didn't get to. I don't remember what it is. I think it's 다면서. Yeah, I have to check it though, but I think that's what it is. So yes, welcome everyone. Hey, Arlie. Hey, I see some of my members. Small, Cheryl, Lynn. Oh, hey, Gems. Welcome, Gems. Gems also does, I say Gems. James Grant also does YouTube streaming, and I saw when he's doing YouTube streaming, he's got my merch. He's wearing my merch in his live streams. I thought that was pretty cool. So we do have a few announcements, the same announcements we give every day, Pinky. These are the worksheets and the outlines for all of the live streams that I've done. At least all the ones that have those are available on Patreon. So if you're a Patreon member, you only need to pledge $1. You can pledge more, but you only need to pledge $1 and you get access to all of them. I can post I think this is I think that's the right command. I'm not sure if that's the right command. Maybe it's not. Anyway, you can get all of the outlines from the beginning, all of the streams I've ever done. If you're a Patreon, so you can just join for 1 month, download all of them, cancel. It's up to you if you've got all the ones you need. Yeah, there we go. It did post it. You can see all the previous lessons. There are links to all of the Patreon posts for all the worksheets and outlines, as well as today's live stream is also up there. Not the outline. That'll be up as soon as this live stream finishes. But the worksheet for today's live stream is already up there. So if you like to practice, there are about 8 high intermediate level sentences that you can try translating that will use the form that we're going to be learning about today. Other announcements are, of course, if you're looking for Christmas presents for your loved ones, then you should go someplace cool. But if you're looking for presents for just random people, why not a Go Billy branded I feel so terrible. It's like I'm on the Home Shopping Network. I'm hosting the Home Shopping Network. Yes, Veronica, would you show them another view of the diamond necklace? Well, sure there. We've got... Why has Veronica got a male's voice? Okay, it's 2020. We're not going to judge. Yes, let me show you this beautiful branded Go Billy sweater. It could be yours for just 3 payments of $89.95. Actually, I don't think it's that much. There's some merchandise. You can find links to all of this in the description of this video. I have sweater, sweatshirts, shirts, cell phone cases, cups, stickers, a couple other things. Pretty much everything except this hat. You cannot buy this hat or this shirt. These are mine. But maybe someday I'll add those to the store. Someday that would be nice. I do have more hats. Believe it or not, I have these hats. So it's not the exact same. It's based off my original hat. I do have these hats which are branded, but you cannot buy them. So I'm just showing it off to you, something that you cannot have. But I do have about I think 5 or 6 of these that I got made. I wear it sometimes. Other announcements are, if you are a member of this channel, and if you are, you know who you are. Those are all the people with this, the green colored names in the chat. If you are a member of this channel, you can also get access to watch all of these videos abridged before everyone else. You'll get to watch today's live stream video edited down to about 10 minutes or so tonight. So you can watch it 3 days before everyone else. And I think, imagine a Go Billy cosplay. Yeah, that would be really weird to see. Like when I'm in Korea, I'll get recognized on the street sometimes. People will be like, oh, it's Billy, you know, because I stick out like a sore thumb. And I'm often wearing these clothes too, because I'm like, if I'm going to film somewhere, I'll wear these exact same clothes. Be like, oh, Billy. But I think it'd be really creepy if someone's like, I don't know, creepy. It would just be like really weird if someone's like, hey, Billy. And I looked over and they're wearing the same exact outfit. I'd be like, what? What's going on? Also, oh yeah, other announcements. I do still have 2. I had 3 before. Now I have 2 regular open tutoring slots. So if you want to do one-to-one tutoring, or I should say it's mainly for like consultation if you want something specific that you need me to teach it to you versus something you can just do, you know, with a native or with just on your own. I do have 2 slots available for that. So there's also information about that if you're interested. So we've got about 5 or 6 minutes left. If you guys have any questions, now is a good time. Let me erase this. These are the prerequisites for today. If you don't know these, you do have about 10 minutes right now to go learn this really quick. You should know how to conjugate verbs. Of course, I don't even know why I write this every week. You should know how to conjugate verbs for any intermediate topic. You should also know this for any intermediate topic. This is a beginner topic, but you really want to make sure that for today's topic, you know how to do 하고 있어요. We did this last time. So if you need a review of that, you can watch the abridged version of that lesson. I think that's only like 10 minutes also. Make sure you know the 고 있다 form, how it's used, how to not use it, as well as how to use it with wearing verbs, verbs for things that you wear. Finally, though, this is the one that I think a lot of you might not know. I do have a live stream about it, though. You can watch this live stream and come back to here. You should be familiar with passive verbs. Now, you don't need to be a master at passive verbs, but if you're not sure what's a passive verb, if you can't produce a few examples of passive verbs right now off your just off the top of your head, then this lesson will be too advanced for you. Now, you're free to stick around, but it will not be able to help you learn more Korean if you're not familiar with passive verbs, because you need passive verbs to use the form we're learning today. It's kind of like if you're going to learn calculus, you got to know multiplication. You got to know, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division first. You know how to do something to the second power. You need to know that stuff first. Now, of course, you can sit in on a calculus class if you're that cool. But you're not going to get very much out of it unless you know passive verbs. So we are going to be using passive verbs today. Not a lot. I'm not going to be doing any crazy hard passive verbs, but we will be using some. It's a requirement for this lesson. Okay, so it is an intermediate level lesson, though. Don't let that scare you. We're not going to be doing crazy advanced sentences here. It is going to be regular intermediate level. If you've already learned this topic, hopefully you can also learn something new. I know I have a lot of people who are actually already intermediate or advanced level, and they still watch some of my, beginner or intermediate lessons because they tell me they still learn something new from them. So hopefully this lesson can be the same. All right. Any quick questions before we get started? Those tutoring sessions. Oh yeah, Grant, you did 1 or 2 of them before, I think. Time to learn passive verbs. Yes. Where do I go for beginner lessons? Diviny with 3 Y's and a smiley face at the end. I have a beginner series. Cheryl mentioned it. Yeah. If you just go to my channel, there's a playlist called Beginner Korean Course. It's free. I just uploaded episode 72 just a few days ago. Or yesterday, I think. And you can watch all of them. They're completely free. There's going to be 100 episodes, and that'll be all of the beginning core concepts. Now, it won't have this form we're learning here. This is not really a core beginning concept. It's more of like, high beginner, low intermediate concept. But yeah, you can watch that. And those will all be up within the next few months as well, in case you're waiting for the whole series to finish before you start it. Oh yes, this eraser. I mentioned to you guys before. It's a special technology. One of my friends who works for the Korean government gave it to me. I'm not supposed to tell that, but his name was Charsu, and he works in the mail department. Yeah, he gave me this. He took it from work, and it's a special technology that lets you see through any object. So it's pretty cool. Can easily be abused, but in this case, it's only being used for teaching. Oh, I got a donation. Who's that? Hey, Carrie. I saw orange. I was thinking, is it Carrie or is it Carrie or Grant? I was like, maybe one of those. Because the orange is like a larger donation amount. Last week, I called you a word that you said wasn't really appropriate. No, what I said was, it's not something that you would say to someone you're not really familiar with. So it's like, I'll tell you about that in a second. First of all, let me write it here. It's a word you don't want to use it unless you're really close with the person you're using it with. I actually don't want to write it up because the first part of it actually came from a swear word originally in Korean. Now, I don't teach swear words on this channel, but I'll just tell you that. It's partially a swear word. Although it's not used as a swear, it came originally from that. It means like freaking hot, basically. I'll say it like that, in that sort of way. So I'm like, it's fine for you to use it because I know who you are. But if you were to use it to someone else that you're not really close with, they would feel like, whoa, that's really like a lot to say to someone. Now, I will say this though, if you give a donation like you did of $20 and call someone that, you could call someone whatever you want if you're paying them $20. You could swear right to their face, tell them you hate them, here's $20, and they'd make a big smile. So yeah, don't worry about it too much. To make up for it, 고비리 훌륭한 선생님이세요. And yes, I didn't even read what you had written after that. 고비리는 훌륭한 선생님이세요. Yeah, that's perfect. Perfect, as well as perfect use of the honorific verb 이시다. So very good with 이세요 at the end. Yes. You watch my ramen sandwich stream. Yes, I actually made another one of those just a couple months ago. So I'll do that about once a year. When I really hate myself and I just want to eat something garbagey that tastes good, I'll do that. So about once a year. And I did it once more just a couple months ago. Let's see. All right. Any other quick questions? Nope, I think it is 2 o'clock. I don't see any other questions, so let's get started with today's lesson. Oh my goodness. That was hard to take off. Okay. Your days are numbered. Today, let me write the form first. Okay, this is the form we're going to be learning today. You know what? I think this pen's time is over. Let's get rid of this pen. Look at this form while I replace this pen. Okay. This is the form we're going to be learning today. You take an action verb stem and you conjugate it as if you're going to conjugate the regular 요 form. So 하다 would become 해, right? 먹다 is 먹어. 살다 is 살아, like that. So you just conjugate it normally, and then you'll add a space followed by the verb 있다, to exist, which you will conjugate normally. So you can do 있어요 or any other tense. This is all you have to do to make the form. It's very simple, right? I just wrote here, these are examples of how it typically becomes, but not always, right? There are some exceptions. Oh my goodness. Hello. 가다, for example, to go, it just becomes 가. So keep in mind that these will have the same exceptions as normal when you're conjugating. So you just conjugate the verb like normal, an action verb, and you attach 있다, of course, with a space. Very easy, right? So what is this form? I'm going to erase this because this is so simple. So what does this mean? This form means that an action, whatever action verb you're using, so I'll say it again. This form means that an action, so whatever action verb that you use to make this form, has completed. It's over. It's happened and now it's done. And that action's state continues. What does state mean? What is a state? Now, of course, I'm not talking about Texas. No, what is a state? A state is how something is. It's a very vague concept, I admit. It's a very vague concept. And I'll talk about actually how you can, some tips for how you can use this in a bit. So it means the action has completed, but its state continues. Well, what would that be? In English, we say something like, to be ing or to be ed. So for example, this could be something like, the door was opened. Was opened. Ed. The door was opened. So if we use our example of the door was opened, the action is the door opening. The door opens, it's open. It has completed. The door is open. And its state. What state is the door in? Well, the state is that action. It's open. So that opening state continues. That's what this form means. Now, it is a bit vague to understand it through this. Now, I do not recommend just learning it like this. I recommend learning this form through examples because this is what the form does, but seeing it used in examples will help make more sense. So an action completed, so a door has opened, but its state is continuing, so it's still open. You're not just saying the door opened, the end. Maybe someone closed it later. No, you're saying the door is open. It is opened. Let me give you another example. You go to a chair and you sit down, and now you are sitting. You are sitting. Think about that for a second. We'll go back to that. So this is just the introduction. Think about that for a second, though. Okay. What this form does then is when you use this form, you are focusing what you're saying on the completion of that action. So you're not just saying that a door is open right now. You're focusing on the fact that the door finished opening. And on top of that, it's still open. So you're focusing on the completion of an action when you use this form. It makes it more clear that that action is completed. All right? So what does this mean then? How is this different than what we've already been learning before? How is it different than past tense? How is it different than saying the door opened? How is it different than progressive tense, saying the door is opening? Well, let's take an example of something that you have to use with this form. The verb 서다. Let me just check the chat for a second, make sure everything's doing good. Oh, hey, Chris. All right, hopefully everything's going good. Yes, we have good connection. Okay. This verb you have to use with this form. You have two options with this form, though, I'll tell you. You technically could use 서다 with this form or with the progressive tense. 서고 있다. Remember when I taught 고 있다? This means that an action is continually or currently going on. So something is consistently or happening right now. So you are standing up right now. That's what 서고 있다 means. So if you said 철수는 서고 있어요, that's like Charsu is really old and feeble and he's like trying to stand up. 서고 있어요. 서고 있었어요. He was standing up. That sounds really weird. Now, there could be a situation where you're using that. Sure. What if you have a giant, a mech, like a giant mech, and he's going to fight like a monster? So you say the mech is 서고 있어요. The mech is standing up, right? That would take a long time to happen. That would be okay to say. 서 있다, however. Remember, we conjugate this. 서다 just conjugates as 서. 서 있다. 서 있다. What did I say that this 있다 form means? What did I say that this new form means? Well, it means that the action of standing up has completed. 서. Stand up. 있다. You are there. You are standing. You're not moving. You're not standing up. You are standing. Your state, the state you are in, is the standing state. You have stood up and you're standing. That's what this form means, and that's how it's different than this form. It doesn't show an action is currently in progress, but it shows that action is completely finished. But emphasizing, though, that the state continues. So not only have you finished standing up, but you're still in that state after having finished standing up. Okay, but we're not done explaining. There's a little more to it that I can give to help you understand it. Give these whole example. Okay, let's look at another one. 닫다 means to close something. And it is a transitive verb, meaning this is the one you use to say that I closed the door. This is not used to say the door closed. That would be an intransitive. A transitive verb means that it can just take an object. So you could say 문을 닫았어요. I closed the door. So this is to close something. You closed a book, you closed a door, you closed a window, you closed whatever. To close. So you could say something like this. 문을 닫고 있어요. I am closing the door. It's a really big door. It's a really heavy door. 지금 닫고 있어요. I'm closing it right now. I'm closing it, right? I am doing it. It's currently going on that I am closing the door. Or, what if you wanted to say the door is closed? Can you do this? Can you do this? I'm not going to tell you yet, but let's think about this. 닫아 있어요. So I am closing the door, so I closed it, and now I am in the state of having closed the door. I am closed the door? What would that mean? No, this wouldn't make any sense because this is, I said, a transitive verb. This is a verb that's you are doing something. Someone does something to something else. So this would be talking about the state of the person who did it. 닫아 있어요. So I am closed the door. That doesn't make any sense. No, we want to talk about the state of the thing or person or whatever that did the action, right? In this case, we're talking about the door is closed. So we want to say the door is closed, not I am closed. I am in that state of having closed the door. Like you could say that, but it doesn't make any sense. Like if you're standing there, you're like, oh, 닫아 있어요. Like, what? Like, what are you doing? So instead, we want to say the door is what's in that state. So we're going to need to use the passive verb of 닫다. And most of the time, you're going to need to use passive verbs because of this. This is why you need passive verbs to use this form. Because most of the time when you're talking about the state, you're talking about that noun state, not the state of the person who's doing it. Not always though, but usually. So you would use the verb 닫히다, which is the passive version of 닫다, which means to be closed. Or I should say, this passive verb actually also means to close, but in the sense that the door closes, not you close the door. So if you said 닫았어요, that's I am closing the door. 닫혔어요, that means the door closed. So, you don't say who did it, just the door closed. However, when you say 서다, just give you another example of this. When you use soda, though, you are talking about the person's state, the person who is sitting themselves. They are sitting, 서 있어요. So they have sat down and they are in that state. But if you were to use 닫다, you close the door and you are in the state, it doesn't make any sense, right? So most of the time you're going to be using passive verbs when you're using this form. I don't really want to say most of the time. You'll use a lot of passive verbs when you're using this form. Just keep in mind what it means. When you're talking about this form, when you use this form, you're talking about whoever did that action, however that action happened, that actor, whoever did the action, is still in that state. So a lot of times you'll use passive if you're talking about like a door or window or whatever. Sometimes you'll use active though, if you're talking about the person is still in that state. For example, sitting. The same thing goes with standing, lying down. Okay, so we're going to use 닫히다 to close. This is passive. So now we're talking about the door itself closing, not me closing the door. If this doesn't make sense to you, please watch my passive verb explanation live stream because I go into a lot of detail about this. Today is not a review of passive. I just wanted to do a quick to kind of show you the differences between these two. But it's not going to be a review of passive voice. That would be a whole lesson in itself. Okay, so we could say 닫혀 있다, right? So what would 닫혀 있다? 닫히다, to close. So the door closed. Door's closed. It finished closing. So it is closed. 닫혀 있다. So you could say 문이 닫혀 있어요. The door is closed. Because 문이 닫혀, the door closes, 있어요. And it is in that state. Does that make sense? Again, this form is used to show that some action has completed. It's over. But emphasizes that it is still in that state. At least in whatever time you're talking about. We'll get to that in a second. Okay. So most of the time, I actually don't like saying most. I'm going to remove that. Okay. I'll just say often. Often this form gets used with passive verbs, but there are a lot of other verbs that it does get used with too. Let me give you a list of some of the most common verbs you'll see it used with that are not passive verbs. I recommend writing these down for now, but you will see them used a lot. First of all, there's 서다 and 앉다. So we had to stand and to sit down. Also 눕다, to lie down. You wouldn't say 눕고 있어요, I am lying down. You would say 누워 있어요, I have finished lying down and I still am lying down. So 눕다. Also 쓰다, but not every use of 쓰다. Only when 쓰다 is being used to mean to write. You can also see it used with 가다 and 오다, as well as 들다. When I say 들다, I mean to enter. You'll see this often as 들어가다, 들어오다, 들어있다. So these are other ones you'll see it with you. So any form of 들다, 붙다, something sticks to something, it's stuck to something, as well as 죽다, to die, and to live, 살다. You can say something is dead or something's alive. I'll give you some examples of those. 남다, to be remaining, so to be left over. 비다, to be empty. 피다, to blossom. Like you could say a flower has bloomed. It is in bloom. It has bloomed and it is. Like that. It is blossomed or whatever. 일어나다, to wake up. There are a lot of these, but these are some of the most common ones that I found. 깨다, to another one, to awaken. So this one, 일어나다 is to get up. 깨다 is just to awaken. 숨다, to hide. 묻다, to be stained. And then 떨어지다, to fall. I'll go over these. Don't worry. Hey, Sarah, welcome. We have a new member. Sarah, make sure to check after this live stream finishes. And you can watch this abridged version right after. Oh, and I forgot to do dabs. So I'm going to do Sarah. I'm going to do 5 dabs for a new member. And then I got to do 20 dabs for Carrie's donation from before. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. All right, thank you. So I know this looks really messy, but these are some of the most common non-passive verbs that you'll see this form get used with. 서다, 앉다, 눕다, to stand, to sit down, to lie down. 쓰다, but only when it's used to mean writing. 가다, 오다, to go and to come. 들다, to enter somewhere. 붙다, to be stuck. 죽다, 살다, to die and to live. 남다, to be left over. 피다, to be empty. 피다, to bloom. 일어나다, to get up. 깨다, to awaken. 숨다, to hide. 묻다, to get stained. 떨어지다, to fall. I would just recommend writing these down for now. You don't have to memorize them. Just write them down, and you'll see them used often, as well as more. These are just some of the most common ones that I found. Okay. And how are you guys all doing? How are you guys all doing? Make sure you guys are doing okay. 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 So I need to make it really clear. This form cannot use any verb that can use an object. So if you have a verb that says, for example, 먹다, to eat, you could never say 먹고 있어요. Even if you think, I finished all the food, 먹고, and now I am 있어요. Now I am finished all the food. I ate all the food. You cannot say something like that because this can only be used with verbs that don't use an object. By that I mean, if you could use the object marker with the verb, it cannot be used with this form. This is an important distinction because there are a lot of verbs you might think make sense in your head that wouldn't make sense in Korean because this would be technically a transitive verb. If you're using a transitive verb, that would be a verb that you can use an object with. I hope I explained that before when I said transitive, but I don't think I did. If you could use an object with the verb, you cannot use it with this verb, with this form. For example, if you wanted to say 입다, to wear, you might think, oh, well, I am wearing a shirt. 셔츠를 입어 있어요. I put it on, and now I have it on me. You can't. The reason is you can say 입다 with an object. You can say 셔츠를 입고 있어요. I am wearing. So in this case, you have to use the 입고 있다 form. You could say 입고 있어요. I am wearing. That is an exception. Not to these rules, but that is an exception where you do use 입고 있다 for something that you're not currently doing right now. When you say you are wearing a shirt, you're not really putting it on, although you could be. It just means you are wearing it on your body already. So if there's a verb that uses an object, for example, 입다, you cannot use it with this form to say that you are in that state. Okay. Also, so let's look a little bit more at these forms again. So we have the old form we learned before. We have 고 있다 and the new form here. This form, the original one, the other one, is used for describing an action. So you are saying you are currently doing something. Specifically, something is happening, something that it's often used for something that takes effort to happen. Like I'm running there. I am listening. I am waiting. Things that takes some sort of effort from whoever's doing it, usually. So it's used to just talk about an action, whereas this new form is used to focus on the state of something. The state of something. So the state of something doesn't require effort to be in that state. If you're saying that you're lying down, you're not doing an action. You've already done it. You are just in that state. So just keep it in mind that this one is more about the state. This one is more about like an action, like you are doing something. You're putting effort into something. Okay. That's just a really small note. I know hopefully if you were here in last week's live stream, you already got that because we did cover that a lot already. All right. So, oh, and there's one more verb I forgot to say. There are not very many verbs that end with hada that can use this form. There are a very small amount of verbs that end with hada. The reason is most action verbs that end with hada, you use an object marker with. 좋아하다. You can like something. Anything hada is going to, if it's an action verb, it's going to use an object marker. There are a few, though, that don't. 위치하다 is to be located. So if you wanted to say something is located somewhere, you could say something, something, the location, at, 위치해 있어요. So it is located, it located there, and it still is. This would be how you'd say to be located. This is a bit of an advanced note. I don't think you need this for simple sentences. If you wanted to say something is located where? The reason is it's not used that often. People would usually just say something is next to it, something is there, is over here. They don't use the phrase to be located quite as much as we do in English, but it is there. Okay, I think that's almost all the notes I wanted to do. Action, location of something. Okay. All right. I think we are ready for our first example sentence. Make sure everyone's doing okay. I'm going to write down our first sentence with blue. And I'm going to leave it up here just so we can take... I want you guys to tell me in the chat, how are you doing? How do you understand this form? And I'm going to write down this first sentence. Okay, how you guys doing? Yeah, no, 먹고 있다 is fine. 성미. 먹고 있다 is the one you can use. You couldn't use 먹어 있다 though. ing is in English, it's both. In English, we don't distinguish saying saying that I am lying down or I am lying down. There's no distinction in English. I am wearing a shirt. I am wearing a shirt. It's the same, whether you're talking about something currently happening or the state of something. It's both. So English is not really a good way to compare this. Just want to make sure you guys are doing okay. Muku. Yes, that's right. That's a good way to say it. It's the result of an action. It's not the ongoing action. Okay. 갑자기 머리가 아파서 누워 있었어요. 갑자기, suddenly, all of a sudden. 머리가 아프다 means literally my head hurts, so I have a headache. 갑자기 머리가 아파서 because I suddenly have a headache because my head suddenly hurts. 누워 있었어요. 있었어요. I was lying down. So I was lying down because my head suddenly hurt. So I suddenly got a headache, so I was lying down. I was lying down because I suddenly got a headache. 갑자기 머리가 아파서 누워 있었어요. So notice that you can also use this 있다 in different tenses, just like we could with the 고 있다 form. Here, we're not saying 누워 있어요, although you could. 갑자기 머리가 아파서 누워 있어요. I'm lying down because my head suddenly hurts. But now it's a different sentence. It's I was. So we're talking about the past. At that time, I was in the state of lying down. 누워, I lied down. I completed lying down. So I am lying down on the bed or somewhere. 있었어요. And I was in that state. 갑자기 머리가 아파서 누워 있었어요. I've got a special note. Remind me, actually, I'll put this at the end. I got a special advanced note that I'm going to talk about for this form that I'll tell you at the end. It'll be an advanced note. Okay. 갑자기 머리가 아파서 누워 있었어요. So I was lying down because my head suddenly hurt. I suddenly got a headache. Okay. That was our first sentence and our easiest sentence. They'll get a little bit harder than this, but not too much more. Okay. Next sentence. 할아버지께서, so my grandfather, 밖에 앉아 계세요. What is going on in this sentence? 할아버지께서 밖에 앉아 계세요. There are two notes that I need to cover in this sentence. So first, let's talk about what the sentence means. 할아버지, my grandfather, 계서. So this is the honorific particle for 가. 할아버지가, 할아버지가. So we have 할아버지께서, 밖에, outside, location. So he is outside. 앉아 계세요. 앉아, sitting. 계세요. What is this part? This comes from the verb 계시다. And 계시다 is the honorific version of 있다. They have the same meaning. But since it's an honorific verb, you can only use it with people, other people. So you couldn't say 저는 앉아 계세요. That would be really wrong and weird. But another person you want to be extra polite to, such as your grandfather or someone you're speaking up to more politely to, you can use 계시다 instead. So this would be conjugated to the regular 요 form as 계세요. So 앉아 계세요. It's the same thing as 앉아 있어요, just more honorific. 밖에. So outside, my grandfather is sitting outside. 할아버지께서 밖에 앉아 계세요. Do you have any questions about this? Any questions about this sentence? If not, we'll move on. I just want to see if anyone has any questions. If anyone notices anything. If not, we'll move on. Compared to most Koreans, Billy's handwriting... I try, Scott. Well, I'm not writing the way that I would normally write Korean. I admit that to you guys. This is not how I normally write Korean. This is me like doing it slowly. If I write Korean, I'll do it fast and messy, just like a Korean would. Like I probably do like that. 할아버지. Like it's readable. It's just not very nice. But yeah, this is me trying to make it big and clear. And my writing is not very nice in English either, to be fair, so. Think you're okay? Okay, well then we will move on. 할아버지께서 밖에 앉아 계세요. I thought someone would have a question. I thought someone would have a question about something. Okay, I'm going to tell you guys. I was hoping someone would notice this. What is up with this? 밖에. Does anyone have an idea of what's going on here? Why is it 밖에? I want to see if anyone can guess. Maybe Grant Gems is here, if he is. What is this doing here? There's something up about this. This is correct. This sentence is correct. I'll let you know. It's not a trick. If not, I'll tell you guys. 앉아 does not need salt. We'll talk about actually something related to that later, but no. I want to see if someone can get it. Is anyone here advanced enough to tell me? Why is there an A after 박? Derp 밖에서. Outside. Yeah, it is outside. Yeah, location marker. But wait a minute. I thought anytime you have an action, something happening, and you want to say something's happening at a location, what is the particle you're supposed to use? 100% of the time, with only one exception for the verb 살다, to live. Yeah. Normally you would use 에서. For example, if I were to say I am studying at the library, you couldn't say 도서관에. That would be wrong. Anytime something's happening at a location, you have to say 에서. So you'd have to say 도서관에서 공부하고 있어요. I am studying at the library. So grandfather is sitting at the outside, a location. 박 is a location. So he's sitting. So it's an action, right? Shouldn't it use 에서? Well, no. The reason is because 앉아 계세요 or 앉아 있어요 is not an action, right? There is no action happening. It is solely the location marker in this place, 밖에. So using 밖에서 would be wrong. If you were to say 앉고 있어요, 앉고 있어요. He is sitting down. He's really old, okay? So he's really sitting down really slowly. Then you would have to say 밖에서 because some action is happening, him sitting down. But there is no action here. So therefore, you cannot use 에서. Although it looks like an action, sitting, it's not happening in this sentence, right? We already explained that 앉아 계세요 or 앉아 있어요 means the action is completed. It's already done. It's only talking about the state. So you're saying the state of grandfather right now is sitting down. That's the state he's in. And because of that, you only need the regular location marker to mark that, not 에서. So I was hoping someone would notice that. Maybe you did notice it, you didn't say anything, but that's the reason why. So I just want to make sure you guys get that, why we're using 에 for location and not 에서. It's because there is no action happening. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. Yeah, some of you guys I see got that in the chat. Okay, let's go on to our next sentence. And we are actually perfect on time. Wow. Okay. 비가 와서 버스 정류장에 서 있어요. Okay, glad it made sense. All right. 비가 와서 버스 정류장에 서 있어요. 비가 와서, it rained. So because of that, because it rained, I 서 있어요. I am standing. 서다, to stand. Am standing. So I stood up and I still am in that state. 버스 정류장에. Bus. I would say like 버스. 버스 is like a dialect version I used all the time when I was in Busan. They say 버스 a lot. Anyway, 버스, I have to like correct it in my head. 버스 정류장에 서 있어요. So I am standing at 버스 정류장에. The bus stop. 정류장 is a stop, like a transit stop. Bus stop. So I am standing 서 있어요 at the bus stop because it rained. So because it rained, I'm standing at the bus stop. Maybe you're waiting for a bus, or maybe you're just standing there to stay out of the rain. Okay, next sentence. 창문이 언제부터 열려 있었어요? This is a question. There's a very tiny question mark at the end. 창문이 언제부터 열려 있었어요? 창문 means a window. So a window. 창문이 언제부터? From부터 when? 언제부터? From when? 열리다. The verb here is 열리다. Oops, 열리다. Putting like two. 열리다 is the 열리다 is the passive verb version of 열다. 열다 meaning to open. So you can say 창문을 열었어요. I opened the window. 창문이 열렸어요 would mean the window opened. So that would be the passive version. Now you normally would never need to say the window opened, right? Like why would the window open? Maybe you could say like the window opened because of the sudden breeze. The window opened. Yeah, that's okay. But anyway, 열리다 is the passive version for 열다. So 열려 있어요 would mean 열려. It opened and it's open. So it opened up and it still is in that state of having been opened. Doesn't say who opened it, just it is open, right? 열려 있었어요. So it was open. 언제부터? From when was it open? The window. From when was the window open? Literally. But this would be like asking, how long's the window been open? Right? How long has it been since the window's been that doesn't make any sense. How long has the window been opened? 창문이 언제부터 열려 있었어요? So how long was the window open? Literally, from when was that window opened? That sort of meaning. It still is open, right? You're not going to say 창문이 왜 열려 있어요? Why is the window open if the window's closed? You could say 창문이 왜 열렸어요? Why did the window open? Maybe it's closed now. Like maybe you come home and you see their window's open and you shut it. Then you can ask your friend, 창문이 왜 열렸어요? Why did the window open? It's not the most natural way to say it. You'd probably still say 열려 있었어요. But 열렸어요, just it was open. It doesn't mean it is, just that happened, right? This though means it is. This means that's the state. So it was open completely and it's still open. At least it was in this case. 창문이 언제부터 열려 있었어요? So how long has the window been open? The window, from when was it open? And it is open. So how long has it been like that? Oh, hey, Melissa, we got a new member. Melissa. Thank you. Let's do five dabs for the new member. Thank you. Awesome. We got like 160 something, 170 people watching. This is great. Hopefully you guys are learning something from today's lesson. We have another sentence here. Okay, let me write up this next sentence we have to go over. Try to read it though as I'm doing it and see if you can understand what it means. Okay, try to translate this on your own. I'll give you a minute. I'm not going to give you more than a minute though. 어제는 크리스마스라 대부분의 가게가 닫혀 있었어요. 어제는 크리스마스라 대부분의 가게가 닫혀 있었어요. How would you say this in English? What does this mean? I'll give you a hint. The verb we're using here is 닫히다. 닫히다 is the passive version of 닫다, to close. 닫히다. Is he reading this chat secretly? His sentences have kind of been mirroring the chat. Really? They're here? Not really, no. Just a coincidence if they have. You can pause it. If you pause the video, you could read ahead at all the sentences we're going to do today. I always take notes on it. Like when I'm doing the lesson, I realize I want to add extra verb or talk about something else. I'll scribble some notes with my marker. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Some of you guys wrote open. Some of you guys wrote closed. Only one of them is right. Okay. 어제는 크리스마스라 대부분의 가게가 닫혀 있었어요. 닫히다 means to be closed. So the door closed, the store closed, anything closed. 어제, yesterday. So yesterday was Christmas. 크리스마스라. This 라 is a because form. It just comes from the verb 이다. 이다 with the because form can become 이, 라, 서, or just 라, 서, and the 서 at the end is optional. So you could also think of this as 크리스마스라서 because yesterday was Christmas. It's the same thing. 대부분의 가게가 대부분, the majority of, or most of. This is the regular word you'd use to say most. 대부분. So most, 대부분의, most stores, 가게. 닫혀 있었어요. Were 있었어요. So this is past tense. 닫혀, closed, as in the stores closed. They finished. They're all closed. They all shut their doors. And it's done. And now they are still, or they were still in that state. So they were still in the state of having been closed. So they were closed, as we'd say in English. Because yesterday was Christmas, most stores were closed. 어제는 크리스마스라 대부분의 가게가 닫혀 있었어요. 어제는 크리스마스라 대부분의 가게가 닫혀 있었어요. Trying to read it very slowly. It's like my brain is like trying to slow down my mouth so I can read it nice and slowly. I want to be like 어제는 크리스마스라 대부분의 가게가 닫혀 있었어요. Like that's not very helpful. 어제는 크리스마스라. So because yesterday was Christmas, 대부분의 가게가, most stores, 닫혀 있었어요. Were closed. Okay. We're not done. Still have a few more sentences. 가방에, let me write the sentence up first. Okay. 가방에 무거운 책이 들어 있어요. 가방에 무거운 책이 들어 있어요. So in the bag, 가방에 무거운 책, a heavy book. 무겁다 means to be heavy. Whoa! Whoa! 좋은 크리스마스 가족하고 보내세요. Whoa, Muku! I didn't think Muku was going to be producer today. Whoa. Producer Muku. Whoa, Muku, thank you. Whoa, okay. Got to do 50 dabs here. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 5, 6, 7, 8, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50. Oh, thank you, Buku. Merry Christmas to you. My arms. My arms. Ah. Oh my gosh. Okay. Thank you. Back to our lesson. 가방에 무거운 책이 들어 있어요. So 가방에 bag, 무거운 책, heavy book. 들다. 들다 means to enter. But if you say 들어 있다, literally means something entered somewhere and is in there. So it's in the state of, what would we say? Being inside. I recommend learning 들어 있다 by itself as its own verb. To be inside. In the sense of to have something, like to have an ingredient. When you're cooking something or when you're looking at an ingredient label and your friend says, 뭐가 들어있어요? What does it have in it? What's in it? What's inside of it? You would use it like this. So here we have 가방에 무거운 책이 들어있어요. There is a heavy book in the bag. So the bag has a heavy book in it. That sort of meaning. There's a heavy book in the bag. But yeah, 들어있다 is used all the time. Like I would just learn it as 들어있다. Something is in something. Let's do another one. 잔디가 모두 let's do this. 죽어 있어요. 잔디 means grass. Let's do this. 잔디가 모두 죽어 있어요. 잔디가 모두 죽어 있어요. 잔디 means the grass, like just grass outside. A lawn, something like that. So the grass, 모두, all of it, all the grass. 죽다. 죽다 means to die. So 죽어 있어요. So 죽다 means 죽어. It died. And it is dead. 죽어 있어요. It is dead. So it completely died and it's still in that state of having died. So it is dead, as we would say. 죽어 있다. If you were, however, to say 죽고 있어요, that means it's still alive. There's still hope for the grass. It's dying. It is doing the action of dying right now, but it's not dead yet. 죽고 있어요. It is dying. Quick, let's give it more water. Let's give it some shade, help it out. 죽고 있어요. But 죽어 있어요. It's dead. 죽어. It died, and it is in that state. 죽어 있어요. 잔디가 모두 죽어 있어요. The grass is all dead. Let's do something a little happier, though. 물고기. Remember, this is pronounced as 물고기. 고, as if it had two. 물고기. There is a reason for that, but you don't really need to know it. 물고기 한 마리. So one fish가 아직 still 살아 있어요. 살아 있어요. 살아 있어요. So if you were to say 살고 있어요, something is living. So I am living in California. I'm living in Korea. 한국에 살고 있어요. Am living. Just doing the action of living. Currently living. 살아, you lived. And you are in that state. So you are alive. 살아 있어요. Alive. 물고기 한 마리가 아직 살아 있어요. 물고기, fish, 한 마리, one fish. 아직, still, 살아 있어요. 살다, to live. So 살아 있어요 is alive. So one fish is still alive. 물고기 한 마리가 아직 살아 있어요. So one fish is still alive. 물고기 한 마리가 아직 살아 있어요. One fish is still alive. Okay. I have a lot of sentences here because there are so many sentences. There are so many verbs that this form gets used with. So I wanted to give a lot of examples of some of the most common ones. 김치 냉장고. I actually got from one of my friends here who moved back to Korea. They gave us a kimchi refrigerator for free. Look up the price of kimchi refrigerators if you're ever bored. They're like in $1,000. They start from like, for like the actual good ones, the good brands, they start at like around $800, $1,000. So we got one of those for free. It's awesome. But they do make them. They're specifically for kimchi. Anyway, kimchi 냉장고에, or stuff that smells really bad. 많이, they're a good friend. But now they're gone. They went back to Korea. 남아 있어요. 김치 냉장고. So kimchi refrigerator. 김치 냉장고에 많이 남아 있어요. 많이, a lot. 남다 means to be left over, to remain. So was left over, and it still is. So we would say is left, to be left. 남아 있다, to be left. 김치 냉장고에 많이 남아 있어요. There's a lot left in the kimchi refrigerator. So maybe your friend says, oh, I want to eat some kimchi. Do you have any more? 김치 냉장고에 많이 남아 있어요. 김치 냉장고에 많이 남아 있어요. We have a lot left in the kimchi refrigerator. Or 남아 있다. You can also think of it as left over or remains. A lot of it remains in the kimchi refrigerator, like that. Let me just check the chat for a second. Lots of kimchi remains in the refrigerator. Yes, that's right. Okay, we're not done though. We have 3 more sentences for this grammar form. And then I have a special note for advanced learners. 우리 강아지와 동생, younger sibling. 동생은 항상, always. Oops, I did the stroke order wrong, but whatever. 붙어 있어요. Okay. 우리 강아지와 동생은 항상 붙어 있어요. 우리 강아지, our, or my, puppy, and younger sibling. 항상, always. 붙다. 붙다 means to be stuck, adhere, stick. 붙어 있어요. So they stuck. My dog and my younger sibling, they stuck together. 있어요. And they are like that. They are stuck together. So they're always together. They're always stuck together. They always go around together. They're inseparable, is what you would say. They're always inseparable. My dog and my younger sibling. 우리 강아지와 동생은 항상 붙어 있어요. Now, you can also use 붙다 as regular just to say something is stuck to a surface. You could say like the sticker is stuck on the door, or the quarter is stuck to the floor. You can say something like that. 바닥에 붙어 있어요. Like it's stuck to the floor. It's just a regular verb that means to be stuck. So 우리 강아지와 동생은, so my dog and my younger sibling, 항상 붙어 있어요. They're always stuck together. They're always at each other's sides. They're inseparable. All right. Next sentence. Let's get our friend Charsu out of here. Actually, let's get him out of the closet and bring him out to help our lesson. 우리가 철수가 의지 밑에 숨어 있어요. Okay. 숨어 있어요. 숨다 means to be. 숨다 means to hide. So like you are hiding. 숨어, so he hid himself, and he is 있어요. So he is hiding. 철수가 의자 밑에, beneath the chair. So 철수 is hiding under the chair. 철수가 의자 밑에 숨어 있어요. 철수's hiding under the chair. Why is 철수 hiding under the chair? What is he afraid of? 철수가 의자 밑에 숨어 있어요. Maybe he's doing duck and cover, like that. Anyway, 철수가 의자 밑에 숨어 있어요. So 철수 is hiding under the chair. Okay, and here's our last sentence for this form. 가방에 피가 묻어 있어요. Like, there's blood all over it. What do we do? 가방에 피가 묻어 있어요. 가방에, on the bag. 피, blood. 묻어 있어요. 묻다 means to stain, to be stained. So we wouldn't necessarily say is stained with blood. You can just say has blood on it. 가방에 피가 묻어 있어요. So the bag has blood on it. Or literally the bag is stained. So it got stained and it still is stained. It is, the bag, stained with blood. 피가 묻어 있어요. 가방에. The bag is stained with blood. 가방에 피가 묻어 있어요. Okay. That is all the sentences we have, but I do have one more note for helping to understand this form. I was going to do it earlier because I think it helps to understand the form, but I didn't want to confuse anyone. So this is a note for more advanced learners who already get this form. So if you get this form really well, add this to your arsenal. If not, if you're still learning this form, I recommend not thinking of it like this because this will confuse you later on when you actually learn this whole form. So I recommend only listening to this tip here if you're already really good at using the whole form. I don't just mean because, I mean the other whole form. When you do something right after, something that's connected, a related action. Because you can think of otherwise, this is going to confuse you. This might not be helpful. Okay, so when you're saying something like to stand up, actually, let's use sit down as an example. So I talked about, again, this is an advanced note. So this is not the part of the regular lesson. You can ignore this. I talked about how this one is referring to the state of an object. So we have 앉아 있어요. So you've sat down and you've completed the action of sitting down, and now you are sitting down. There's another way you can think of this form. Again, this is not what it means. But you can think of it as like this. 앉아서 있어요. As in, I am there. Like I am in the chair. 의자에 있어요. I am in the chair. 의자에 앉아서. So I have sat down, and immediately after sitting down, I have done this action of existing. So you can think of it in that sense. This being the form used to show connection between two things. One thing happens and something else happens, and they are both connected. It's part of the same thing. So 앉아서 있어요. So I've sat down, and now I'm still connected to this action of sitting. I am existing wherever I am. So I could be sitting in a chair. This works for all of these examples. You can say, let me get one of the other ones we had. 죽어 있어요. Again, once more, this is really for advanced. Because I think if you haven't learned this form yet, this is only going to confuse you if you later learn this form. Because it's not actually this form, but it kind of works like that form. You can think of it as if it were that form. 죽어서 있어요. So we have 죽어 있어요. Now, again, this is not correct. This is not correct to say this. That's why I want to say this is not, you cannot say this in Korean. This is just to help with understanding. 죽어 있어요. So we said 죽어, die, 있어요, and you are dead. But you could also think of it like this. 죽어서, so you've died. And after dying, well, you are 있어요. You are that. You exist after having done this. 죽어서, since this sol form is used to indicate the completion of an action as well. So you can think of it like this. All right, that's all I wanted to say. Just as to help. If the reason I wanted to give this is if you're advanced and you're trying to think, can I use this form with this verb, that verb? If you can do this, then yes. If it makes sense this way, yes. So that's just a litmus test for those of you who are more advanced and wanted another way to look at this form. All right, so that is the end of the lesson for today. We finished right on time. Really good on time. So now if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. They can be related to this lesson. If you'd like to make a sample sentence, please tag me in the comments and I will check it out. If you'd like to practice using this form. If not, feel free to ask, of course, any questions if you have. Caught that Scooby-Doo. Yeah, I'm still practicing, but I haven't listened to I actually have to go listen to Shaggy speaking in Korean. I have to listen to Shaggy speak a little bit more so I can practice it. But I haven't been watching any Scooby-Doo episodes, so I'll work on it. Yeah, thank you everyone for coming. And please, if you'd like to practice right now. If you make a sentence you'd like me to check, make sure to ping me so you can click the @ symbol and start typing my channel name, and it'll ping me so I can just see it a little easier. 저기 앉아 계신 분이 우리 할아버지입니다 is perfect. 저기 앉아 계신 분. So the person who is seated over there, 우리 할아버지, our grandfather입니다, is. Wonderful, perfect, natural, very natural sentence. KB1, good job. Any difference between 안에 있다 and 들어있다? Yeah, if you say 안에 있다 means literally on the inside of something. 안 means the inside. 들어있다 just means in, literally entered into something, went in something. So you would say an ingredient is 들어있다, but you wouldn't say an ingredient is 안에 있다, unless you wanted to say in English, and inside of this granola bar is a special ingredient that helps with your memory. You could say that. 이 과자 안에는, the inside of this snack is 좋은 재료가 들어있어요. You probably say it with 들어있다. It has good ingredients. So something that's entered into it with 들다. You could also do 들어가 있어요. He is inside, like he's in the house. So you maybe you're standing outside and your friend comes over, says, "Hey, where's Charsu?" You can say, 집에 들어가 있어요. He's in the house. Literally, he went in the house and he's in there. So yeah, sorry, why can't I speak? I'm like speaking English at the same time as my Korean. 들어있다 would be for anything that's inside of something, like entered something, ingredients. And 안에 있다 is just literally inside, like is located inside. But they're the same meaning in English, just different context. Different nuance in Korean. 눈이 남아 있어요? There is snow left? Well, if you're wondering, like you go to a theme park and they have like an area that has fake snow, and you ask the person, 눈이 아직 남아 있어요? Is there still snow left? Then yeah, you could say that. Marisa, how do I say my name? I have a video on my channel. I'm not going to talk about giving Korean names here. That's a huge topic. But check my channel for a video called Korean FAQ, How to Pick a Korean Name. That should answer your question. I give a lot of tips for picking a Korean name in there. Okay. Can we use, Yara Hejaz, can we use negative words in this form? Yes, you can. 서 있지 않아요. 앉아 있지 않아요. He is not seated. 누워 있지 않았어. I wasn't lying down. 들어가 있지 않아. He's not inside. 들어있지 않아. It doesn't have that in it. Yeah, 남아 있지 않아. You wouldn't say you wouldn't ever do 없어요 though. That's a different verb. So I should say that don't use this with 없다, just like you don't want to use 고 있다 with 고 없다. You cannot use this form with 없다 either. You can just use the regular 치 않다 negation form. And the 치 않다 is good because you can use it with everything. Whereas the 없다 and the other ones you can only use in certain cases. 비가 왔어요, okay? 비가 와 있어요. Yeah, you could say it's already rained. But I don't know why you would say that. The rain is here. 비가 와 있어요. It doesn't mean it's raining right now. It means it has rained. So yeah, I don't think you'd ever say that. It has rained. Like, okay, sure? Yeah, you could say it. I don't know what it would mean. It's not raining right now, though. So no, you would say 오고 있어요. It is raining because it's currently happening right now. Not that it's finished. Remember, this form emphasizes the completed state of something, not something ongoing like rain. I don't know if you explained this earlier. Is this different from 고 있어요? Yes, Rem, please watch my last week live stream because I covered the 고 있다 form. Completely 100% different than that form. 가만히 있어. 떠 있어. Yeah. Oh, my eyes are open. 떠 있어. 눈이 떠 있어. Yeah, his eyes are open or his eyes are closed like that. That's the one you would use. If you were to use 감고 있어, that's like he is closing his eyes like this, which is okay too. It's just a little different. But you don't need to use that. You could just say opened his eyes, closed his eyes. Yeah, like someone gave a comment, 이 세계 식당, 눈을 감았어요. It's probably more natural. It's simpler. Like you don't need to use this form unless you, like I said, you want to emphasize the state that something is in. Oh, hey, Scott. Give you 2 dabs for the donation. And then you had a question. Let's see if I can answer that. 재미없는 게임, 지루한 게임. That's a lot of questions for a donation, but I can answer the first one. 재미없다 means to not be entertaining. So like something is not entertaining you. So 재미없다 would be like that's dumb. That's not cool. That's really boring in that sense. 지루한 is directly, it means boring. Something is boring you. So if you said 지루한 game, it means the game makes you bored. Not that the game's not fun, but just the game makes you feel bored. So similar, but just like in English, what's the difference between saying it's an unentertaining game and it's a boring game? Like they're similar, but which would you probably say? Whatever one you want to say in this situation. You want to say 재미없는 game, like it's not a fun game. Or 지루한 game, it's a boring game. So either's fine. 끝다? I don't know what you mean by 끝다. I think you mean 끝나다 or something else. 끝마치다. So that's just to finish, to end. How much is the minimum wage in your state? I don't know. What is the minimum wage in California? I don't know because I haven't worked a minimum wage job in like, I want to say like over 10 years. Yeah, like 11 or 12 years. I haven't worked a minimum wage job in like 11 years or so. That was when I worked at Best Buy. And then before that, I worked at Baskin Robbins. And those were minimum wage jobs. And at that time, I think I got $10 an hour at Best Buy and $8.25 an hour at Baskin Robbins before that. I don't know what it is right now. I think it might be $10 in California. Korea, it's low. In fact, I wouldn't know because I don't have any friends working minimum wage in Korea either. I don't know. You'd have to ask a Korean what the minimum wage is. I just know it's low. I have a few friends who worked as waiters and they only made like $2 an hour, but that's not unusual because they would get other money as well. But it's like not tipping. So I'm not really sure. I'm not the best person to ask for like general things like, you know, what's the best place to live in Korea for students? Where's the best dorm? What's the best program for Korean studies? Like what university? That type of question, because I didn't experience that. I didn't have to do that. And the time that I did live in Korea was like 15 years ago. So my information on that would be outdated. People ask me like, how much is rent in Korea? I'm like, I don't know. I lived in the middle of nowhere for a few months. And then I lived in a big city. I lived in Busan for like a year and I paid really low rent because I was like, it was like in a shared kind of place. And I don't know how much it would be for a student to stay because you'd be closer to school, different areas. So yeah, I wouldn't be the best person for those types of questions. Apologies. 13 per hour. Interesting. Okay, they did raise it. I work in convenience store in Korea. It is $6 an hour. Okay. But someone else says 8,600. Another person says 7,800. See, I don't know. It could be different. It could be per city. It might not be federal. It might be set by the region. Each section or city state sets their own minimum wage. I'm not sure. I'm working now in convenience store. I make $6 an hour. Maybe you're getting underpaid. Maybe the minimum wage should be higher. I don't know. It's possible. I've heard a lot of stories about people not getting paid the correct amount from my Korean friends even. So, do you miss Hwangari Beach? 0. Because I live in LA and I can go to a much bigger beach, like less than an hour drive, and I have like 20 beaches to pick from, and they're all a little bit different, so I don't miss the beach in Korea at all. Now, it's nice when you're there, you can go to the beach, but being someone who's from a beach area, it's like, okay, it's a beach. Let's see. Any tips for getting more comfortable with speaking Korean? 학생 한국어 asks me if I have any tips for getting more comfortable speaking Korean. Yes, speaking more. I'm sorry, like, I'm not going to be the kind of person, I'm not going to be that YouTuber who tells you that there's some shortcut for learning Korean, because there's not. If you want to get more comfortable with speaking Korean, you need to speak way more Korean than you're imagining. You might be thinking, if I speak Korean, I practice with my friends for about 10, 20 minutes a day. That's nowhere near enough to get comfortable at speaking Korean. You're comparing your abilities to a Korean who's going to be spending 12, 14 hours a day speaking in Korean, reading Korean, listening to Korean, writing in Korean. The 10, 20 minutes is nowhere where you would need to be to get to a comfortable level. Even if you're already good at grammar, it's hours, in the range of hours per day, that you need to be using Korean in some aspect, some way. Now, that doesn't mean rapping like Eminem speed for 4 hours a day, but being immersed somehow in Korean conversation, listening to Korean, using Korean, in order to get more natural at it. You need a lot of exposure, because I can tell you, most of the Korean that I know, I got good at it, not by just studying it, not by just reading books, but by using it. And there's so much Korean that I know that I never learned. So even if I can speak Korean fluently, me being able to explain it to you took me a lot of effort to practice, like grammar rules. And sometimes I'll look up grammar rules that I realize are actually not correct. Even though that's the rule, there's a lot of times where people don't say it like that. There's a lot of those cases. Now, I present those to you when I teach a lesson. I'll tell you guys when there is stuff like that. I'll tell you like, hey, the official rule is this. But, and one time I did that I can think of off the top of my head was when I taught you guys the grammar form for, what was that? Was that call? No. I just had it. I can't remember it all of a sudden. Anyway, I had it in my head for a second. There's some grammar forms where, although officially this is this, it's not actually used like that. Now it's bugging me. What was that grammar form? Now it's like really bugging me that I can't remember what that grammar form was that I was teaching about. 길 바로 듣느라고 기로 can it was one of the because forms. Oh man, I had it in my head. I can think of it, but I can't remember which form I was thinking about. Kim? Hihada? Oh, it's like right on the tip of my tongue. Kile. I was like, it's like here's something. Kile. Sorry. Kile and kie. Now, I did a live stream about this. This is just the first example that came to my head. I actually couldn't think of the whole... sorry, and I even spelled it wrong because I was like, couldn't remember it. Now, I use this form when speaking all the time, and I know how it's used. People actually use these differently. But if you look the official definition, trying to get back to what I was talking about, the official definition will say it's the same thing as this. It's just a casual version of this. But no, it's actually used differently. And I taught that when I did the live stream about kire. And I talked about how it's different than kia, even though grammatically, officially, it's the same thing. And it just came from the same thing. I talk about how it's actually used in a different way. And I didn't learn that by studying. I could not have learned that by studying because there are no resources that teach you the difference between those. Believe me, I searched when I was making my lesson because I looked it up. It said it's the same. And I was like, no, it is not. And I was able to find one old reference. It was like some book from, I think, the 90s. And it had a difference. It mentioned the difference. And that's kind of what I was able to work off of. But you can only get good at Korean by actually using it because there's so much Korean you need to know to get natural. Not just learning a bunch of random vocabulary and grammar. You need to actually learn when those vocabulary and grammar words are used. And the only way to do that is to do tons of practicing. So to get more natural, you need more practicing, more than you think, way more than you think. And people who do get really fast at Korean, you might be wondering, oh, how'd they get so good at Korean so fast? They're not geniuses. They practice a ton. They work really hard at it. And some people might do that just naturally. They're naturally someone who works hard at studying a language. But it doesn't matter who the person is. You get good at Korean by using it a lot, by practicing a lot. And you study, of course, to know how to use stuff and what to use. In the beginning, you need to do that. But once you've gotten the basic form, don't just keep studying it. That won't get you better at it. You practice it. Then you can go back, study it for a little more information, and then practice that. That's how you get better at Korean. Not just by watching more videos of my lessons. Not just by reading more of my lessons, but by practicing it, by using it. Basically, move to Korea. No, actually, no. You would think that living in Korea would get you there a lot faster. And it can. Potentially, it can. But no, you would be surprised. The majority of people who I run into who live in Korea for years, I'm talking live in Korea, not visit Korea, not do like a short exchange program, living in Korea, like their permanent address is in Korea and they're there for like, 4, 5, 6 years. The majority of people I run into cannot speak fluent Korean. Cannot. They can put together sentences because, they studied it. They can say basic things. They know enough to order food. They can read Korean. They cannot speak fluent Korean. They can do most basic sentences like a beginner. And that's not a hit at those people. They are where they want to be. That's what they want, is they're not interested in learning more Korean. They think they do, but they don't actually want to learn it. You can get to a good level in Korea whether you live in Korea or not. It's how much are you practicing it. Now, if you don't have anyone to practice with, well, that's a problem. And in that case, Korea is great, but you can also make pen pals. You can make friends online these days. I mean, nobody's going out to meet friends anyway right now. So you can meet friends online. You can practice Korean by making short sentences. Talk with your friends on the phone, do video chat, whatever. You don't need to be in Korea. Being in Korea is the best, but it's not 100% necessary. You can actually practice at any level. Yes, you can practice Korean from the very beginning when you learn just hello. If you only know hello and goodbye, you can practice hello and goodbye. You can say them. You can make a friend on the internet say, hey, I'm learning Korean. 안녕하세요. There you go. Now you have practiced saying hello. Meet a bunch of friends. Say 안녕하세요 to everyone. Goodbye to everyone. Then you learn, how are you? You add that. 안녕하세요. 잘 지내세요? How are you? Are you doing well? You add these stuff in, but you practice as soon as you can. I'm getting mad because I get really frustrated when I hear so many people looking for shortcuts for learning Korean. Or how an easier way, the easiest way to learn, or the most effective way to learn. You have to practice it. There is no shortcut. If there was a shortcut, I would package that and I almost swore. If there was a shortcut, I would be packaging it and selling it to you right now. Everyone would be, if there was a shortcut. Believe me, There is no shortcut. If you want to get good at Korean, you just have to tell yourself, I need to be practicing this. And you might think you're practicing it. Oh, I am practicing it. No, you are not practicing it anywhere near the amount that you need to if your goal is to get really good at Korean. Now, if your goal is just to learn some simple phrases, to talk with your friend, no, don't worry about it. Just, pick up a grammar lesson, pick up one of my books. You can go through that, finish it, you're good. You're going to be able to make basic conversations and sentences. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about actually being fluent, saying what you want to say, talking in Korean, whether that's really good level or a low level, actually being able to talk. The only way to do that is practicing every day as much as you possibly can. And there is no shortcut. I swear to you, there is no shortcut for that. There. Now I told you what most other people will not ever tell you for any language teacher. Or maybe they would. I don't know. I'm not studying any of the languages, but that's what they should tell you. You need to be practicing. Real goal is 2 more years everyday learning, maybe you becoming fluently. How many hours do you need to practice? David, until you are at the level you want to be at. I still practice Korean. I've been learning for 15 years. I'm still improving. My Korean right now is noticeably better than it was to myself. I can notice it. I don't need other people to tell me that. Than it was just a few years ago, because I have video record of myself. I do this. I record myself speaking in Korean a few times a week, and I have video record of it. I can go back and watch earlier clips and compare it to myself now, and I can noticeably hear that I'm getting better. And I've been doing it for 15 years. So how many hours do you need to get good at Korean? It depends what your definition of good is. How much is acceptable for you? How good do you want to get your Korean? Do you want to be able to have basic, simple, slow conversations and kind of barely get your point across? I don't know, maybe like a year, maybe 6 months if you're doing it all day. How long do you need to get fluent? Few years? I don't know, a year if you're like doing it in Korea every single day, all day talking Korean. A few years, there is no amount. It's how well are you able to get that practice in? Because 1 hour practicing for someone could be equivalent to 3 or 4 hours for someone else. If that one person is, having a conversation and the other person is slowly chatting, right? You saying all these videos saying the ultimate fast way to learn Korean? Yes, they are. Unless they say do this, unless they say practice Korean, yes, it is clickbait. Now, there are tips. There are tons of tips for learning Korean, but all of them come back to the same core concept of practicing it, actually using it. You might find tips, even I've done tips before, like for practicing Korean, things like, making sticky notes, put them around the house, getting pen pals, practice making flashcards, all these little tips all come down to practicing, all come down to using the language. Yeah, that's what it all is. And, there are different ways you can use the language. You might want tips to tell you how you can go about practicing the language. How can I make the best use of watching TV shows in my Korean study? Sure. But at the end of the day, if you're just watching Korean shows and writing down words, you're never going to learn Korean. You're just going to learn a bunch of words. You're not going to be able to speak. The only way you're going to get better at speaking Korean is by speaking Korean. So in yes and no. Clickbait, they are clickbait, but also they might provide some good tips for just, other methods of studying. Maybe they give some recommendations for apps that you can use to make Korean pen pals to practice Korean. In which case, no, it's not clickbait in that sense. But if there's something that says like, you have to do this and it's not practicing Korean, it's something else, that's not actually going to help you speak Korean. Because after doing Korean teaching now on this channel for over 8 years, and before I started this channel, I was also teaching Korean just on my own online. So I've been doing Korean teaching now for about 10 years, studying for over 15 years, and I see it with everybody who's a good Korean speaker. Anyone who I've talked with, anyone who I've ever talked with before who's actually able to put their thoughts together into Korean. Okay, so fluent, I'll say. Fluent meaning you can say whatever you want. Doesn't have to be perfect, but you can say whatever you want and understand anything. All of them, 100%, 100% of them practice it a lot. That's it. That's the secret. You got to practice it. I've never met a single person. I'll say it the other way. I've never met a single person ever in my entire life of teaching Korean or learning Korean who got good at Korean by reading lots of books. Just by itself, by reading lots of books. Or who got good at Korean by watching lots of TV shows. Or listening to lots of Korean music. Or reading my books and nothing else. No, it never happens. All of them was from practicing using the language. Now, some of them would focus more on speaking with friends. Other of them would focus more on doing like tutoring. They'd like have a language, a native Korean they would practice with frequently. But all of them was from speaking Korean, using it. And if you talk with other people, they're going to say the same thing. How did you get good at Korean? Well, I had Korean friends and I spoke every day. There you go. Oh, I lived in Korea and I worked in a Korean office. There you go. Whatever, they're going to have different life paths that they chose. You know, all these different life paths. It doesn't really matter. Just like a recent game that released. The life path you pick doesn't really matter that much. The ultimate core is the same. It's how much are you actually practicing the language? Okay? So what you're telling us is just practice. Yes, practice. All right. I'm saying this like too many different ways. Okay. Thank you everyone for coming. I'm not going to take any more of your time. Hopefully that can help one or two of you guys here. And any other quick questions before we go? I'll give 1 more minute in case anyone has any quick last minute questions. I say some things in the most robotic way, so I'm fluent. If you can express yourself completely then I'd say that's fluent, but robotic, that might not be fluent. That might be something like in the intermediate level, like low intermediate is when you start to be able to say everything you want, but not at all in the way you want to. So it'll sound very robotic because of that. I don't know if I would call it fluent unless you feel comfortable doing that. There's some people who said to me, I just learned Korean from watching dramas. No, that never happens. I've never met anyone actually that happened to it. I knew one person who said that to me before. They said, because their Korean was pretty good. They were 17 years old. And they said they learned Korean primarily through watching Korean dramas. And I was like, this was before I was doing my channel. I was like, wow, that's amazing. How would you do that? Well, I studied Korean for about 2 or 3 years on my own. And then I just started watching lots of Korean dramas. And I talked with all my friends at school too. So I was practicing it. That's not learning through dramas. Just they didn't understand how they were learning because they weren't focusing on studying Korean so much. They were just thinking, I'll just learn Korean. You know, study a bunch of books and then watch a bunch of dramas, but then practicing it with a bunch of their friends. That's it. That's what it was. They had all this knowledge they couldn't use. And then when you start practicing with your friends, then you can use that knowledge that you're studying. It doesn't happen. Just like anyone who tells you they learned English by watching dramas, it's the same thing. Yes, after having studied it for like 10 years, and after having practiced it by either living in the country or by having lots of English-speaking friends, yes. But no one learns just from input alone. There have actually been some language studies about that. One of them was one I learned in college about this guy who like locked his kid in the closet to try to get them to like see what sounds they would make. Anyway, they've done some unethical kind of weird experiments. You can't learn a language just by watching TV. Even if you start watching TV as a child, you can't learn a language from input alone. You need output. It just doesn't happen. Oh, okay. Wes asks, Billy, do you think to get good for TOPIK 4 in 4 years of college in Korea is possible? Good for TOPIK? Well, it depends what you mean. What is good TOPIK score? But 4 years of college in Korea, if you're taking classes in Korea, yeah, you're going to be good at Korean because you're going to be using so much Korean in that. Hey, Gigi. Gigi, thanks for the 900 won. Just put Gigi. Thanks for the 900 won. That's like 9/10 of a dab. So, thank you. Let's see. It's so hard to convey tone through text. Yeah, that's why speaking is the best. I mean, writing is still practicing, and that's good. If you write a lot, you'll get good at writing. If you're chatting a lot on your phone, you're going to get good at chatting on your phone. If you're talking a lot, you're going to get good at talking. If you're listening a lot, will you get good at listening? Not really, no. You need the output to get good at it. So you actually get better at listening, understanding Korean when your speaking improves. You get better at reading Korean when your writing improves. That's how it works. Everything is tied to how much output, how much are you using it? And you can ask this to any polyglot. You can ask this to, I don't like the word polyglot, because I think a lot of polyglots are not really polyglots. They just know a few phrases, or they can control the conversation along the few phrases that they know. But there are legitimate polyglots out there. Ask anyone who's learned a foreign language before. They'll tell you they practice the language a ton. And they'll practice from the very beginning. They'll learn one grammar concept, they'll practice it. They'll add a new one, they'll start using it. They might sound really awkward, but that's okay, they're practicing it. Play your games and menus and every other applications in Korean if you dare. You could try that. Like I said, if it's input though, no matter, all the input in the world won't teach you how to do output. So I'll say that. I've got TOPIK 2 or 3 in 10 months. That's great. The whole holiday, I have homework and GCSEs to do. Oh, thanks for another 900won. But why are you angry now? Now it's 1,800. 1,800won. So I'll do another 9/10 of a dab. Actually, I'll finish the dab. So that's the last 10th. And then I'll do another 80%. This is 80% of a dab. I feel like I'm doing like a Bruce Lee stance or something, or something like this. Okay. Thank you everyone for coming. I will stop the lesson now. Thank you for everyone who's still stuck around to my rambling. Hopefully this hit home for a couple of you out there who are wondering about how to improve your Korean. Thank you for coming. And I will see you guys in the Discord chat. If you guys would like to continue chatting, I am there most of the time. Also, make sure to get your worksheet and your outline for today's live stream. You can get that on Patreon. And if you're a member, check out my channel tonight and you'll get to watch this abridged version. Of course, it won't have my rambling in it. It won't have all my mistakes. It won't have my shaggy voice or anything like that. But you get to see the whole lesson abridged. It'll be like 10 minutes or so. And I will see you again. So thank you for coming, and I will see you again next time. 그럼 다음에 또 봐. I wonder how Shaggy would say it. 그럼. Okay, I'm just gonna go. See you guys.